So again, this is web accessibility. ADA section 508 is the actual, say, law. What does it mean for our website? All right, who we are. We're a web development company. Like I said, it's from St. Pete. We've been building WordPress sites since 2012. We specialize in accessibility and WordPress sites plugins. Our motto is pretty much everything WordPress.
So a little bit about our story and why we got into 508 compliance is Joe and I attended the National Federation for the Blind the last 2 years. And after sitting in on several classes, it really moved us to see how difficult it was for people with visual disabilities to surf the internet, to do things that we take for granted every single day. It's really, really difficult for them. So as a result, we decided that we wanted to get more involved in accessibility, and so we started doing that recently. That's why we're here tonight, and that's why we made a plugin that helps with accessibility.
Yeah, that was actually in Orlando too. That was earlier in the year.
Yeah, it was here, yeah.
Last couple of years. That definitely made a big impact for us. So ever since then, we've really been trying to get the word out, just educate as best as we can. So our talk outline is very simple. We're going to explain what Section 508 is. We've come up with 11 easy steps that we feel that we can add as developers into the process of making our website that'll really make a difference. And then at the very end, we're going to give you some developer tools and some ideas, some software stuff. All right, what is Section 508? We got WCAG. It's the Web Content Accessibility Guidelines, and the most current version is 2.1. This has to do with just like when you see the blue parking lots or the parking spaces as far as ADA is concerned. WCAG is ADA for disabled people for the internet. It's just as simple as that, and that's a worldwide standard, and they deal with all of them: auditory, physical, speech, cognitive, all disabilities. And then you got Section 508, which is the American version. The DOJ pretty much makes the laws on these, but what they say is they refer you back to WCAG and say that you only have to be in compliance with these certain levels of WCAG, which is basically level A and double A. But even then, there's some gray area, and there's a lot of issues going on, and it's not officially law yet for individuals like us. It's already law for government agencies and federal agencies. They already have to comply. So we got a few facts here. Over 1 billion people worldwide have some sort of disability. That's obviously a huge number. And of that, an estimated 253 people have some sort of vision impairment. And this is where we personally think we can make the biggest difference, is with the end user who is just a low vision individual. And of the 253 million, you've got 19 million children are visually impaired. So you see those numbers, and you start to realize that you could really make a big difference in someone's use of technology. And the way technology is these days, I have 2 kids, Steve has a child. Our kids and the internet and technology are just so intertwined and so wrapped in with each other. It's hard to fathom 19 million children can't access any kind of technology like this. And with WordPress growing, as a CMS, we've got over 30% of the internet runs on WordPress. As developers or anybody in the space, we could really make a difference. Our motto is one site at a time. If we all just one site at a time do these simple steps, we can really make a difference for a lot of people. So with that,
let's switch sides there, Joe. All right, so why does Section 508 exist, and why should we make our sites compliant? That's not a blank. That's why. Because someone with a visual impairment, a blind, a low vision user, when they go to your website, that's what they see. So all of the time that us as developers all that we spend in trying to get the great graphics going and do really cool, that font that your customer just has to have, that one special font, or you got to get this thing just right and this little widget right here. Well, it doesn't matter to a visually impaired user of your website. So as Joe said, we've come up with 11 easy steps. This is basically beginner level stuff that anybody can do with your website. You don't have to be a great developer. Just follow these steps and it's going to help you out to become more compliant. So let's start right off with number 1. Provide alternative text for non-text content. So it's alt text is the short version of that. So how do you add alt text? Okay, and why should you? Alt text is, you add it in your media library, click on your photo that you want to add the alt text for, okay? And right here, it says alt text. It's that simple. Just add your text right there. So what do good alt text tags look like? Well, this picture right here, it's a picture of a field of flowers. You want a good descriptive sentence for what it is. You can even get more descriptive than this. This was taken at Dillard House in Georgia, so maybe you could add that in your alt text. Now, why do you want to do that? Because when low vision users go to your website, they're using what's called a screen reader, okay? How many of you are familiar with what a screen reader is? Okay, excellent, excellent. And that's how low vision users are gonna surf your website, basically.
And with alt text, there's a real difference. You can add anything. You can throw in here flowers, a field of flowers, or you can get really descriptive and really make a difference for the end user. It's the difference between a good and bad book. You can just throw out 1 or 2 words, be in compliance, or you can really do a good service to an individual and explain thoroughly, a good description of that picture.
This is a way to paint a picture for them, basically. All right, so step number 2, label form elements. All right, so how do you add form labels? I'm just gonna go with the easy way. This is contact form 7, which I'm sure a lot of you have used or have heard about. It automatically adds your labels right here. You can see where it says your name, okay? So what do good form labels look like? Well, this is it. This your name required. That's it. It's that simple, okay, with something like contact form 7. Number 3, so make sure all of your form elements, by the way, that's very important. Your form elements need to be labeled so that when someone uses your form with a screen reader, so that they can go through and they can work your form, because if not, they're not going to be able to. So number 3, add manuscript or closed captions of audio for videos, and add audio description for all animations. So what do closed captions look like? This is my favorite picture. It's a good picture of Joe. You can add closed captions with YouTube. That's the easiest way to do it. And I know Joe has a little something he wants, because he's our YouTube guy. So,
no, I mean, how many people here have posted a video on their website before? Has anybody used YouTube? We highly suggest using YouTube, not just for, well, obviously it's anybody who's used it, it's very easy. You make a video, you get the little URL, little link, put that in there, and you're good to go. But they also make it very easy for making your subtitles. You just, when you're back on your video manager and your creator studio, if you go to where it says subtitles and CC, you can automatically add it. It'll just ask you what language, and you pick English or whatever it is, and it'll automatically add that little CC button down at the bottom. It will not do that unless you tell it to, basically, but they make it really easy, and they also make it real easy for you to be able to crowdsource your text, your captions. You can open up crowdsourcing to let anybody who visits your video chime in on what the description is, and then you get the final say of the yes or no, and you can make it live or not. But YouTube makes it really, really easy, and the low vision community uses YouTube like we drink water. That is where they get a large chunk of their information, is YouTube, because of that, because they make it so accessible to everybody.
Okay, so what's an audio description example? What's a video with a good audio description? Okay, this is The Lion King, which a lot of you, if not everybody here, is probably familiar with. The opening to the Lion King, it doesn't have any words. Okay, so there's nothing to close caption. However, there's this, by the way, this video is a great example. The audio description is really good. It's got, and it'll say, if you go to the video, okay, it'll say, I wish I could play it, but anyway, we never do. It's got the animals running up the hill, going to the mountain, and there's a great description of, there's all of the giraffes are running, and everybody's happy, and they're running up to the top of the mountain. It's a really cool audio description, so that's a good example. All right, number 4. Ensure that your color contrast meets minimum thresholds, okay? So your color contrast ratio should be a minimum of 4.5 to 1, okay? And you can check this with a contrast ratio checker. With the exception of links can be 3 to 1. So again, why is this something that's important? We've got an example. This is an example of really bad contrast, okay? You've probably seen a website similar to this. I have no problem with my vision. I'm getting a little older. I can't see as well as I used to, but this, I can hardly read the bottom one, So what does good color contrast look like? Boom, that looks a lot better, doesn't it? That's why it's important. Number 5, make your link text descriptive. And what do good and bad link descriptions look like? This is a fun one. A good link description would be, this is a link to the WordPress plugin repository, okay? So when you click on it, and it says right there, WordPress plugin repository. A bad link description, it goes to the same place, but this just says click here. We've all probably done that at some point. If we've been a developer on a website, we've put a link that says click here. Don't do that, that's bad, okay?
And again, this is about a screen reader, because most individuals that are, everybody who's low vision is going to be using a screen reader. You can't navigate the site, and that's what the screen reader is reading you. It's just going to say link, click here, and then continue reading, and that's not going to tell the individual where they're going. That's why it's important to have a descriptive link. This one here, the screen reader is going to read to the individual the WordPress plugin, the link WordPress repository. And so that user is going to know that that's where the link is taking it. Because remember, the screen reader is always talking. It's reading all the words to the individual.
Okay, so do we have any questions on so far? We're about halfway through, yes?
Have you ever seen screen reader? Does it say this is a link? Or how do they know when they're listening if it's actually a link?
It'll just say link.
It will say that?
Yep,
And
absolutely.
Describe what the
Yes,
link says.
that's right. So if it just says link and click here, that tells you nothing. I mean, I guess you could maybe take the context clues and all that, but when you're trying to zip through that, you're not messing with that. So,
yeah, and screen readers operate. Most low vision users who use a screen reader regularly, they have it set very fast. You would be amazed
like a ×3
how
or 4
fast
speed.
Yeah, they go through it very, very fast. They can hear a lot better than we can, and they set their screen readers fast so that they can get through websites. They can get get their business done.
absolutely. Yes.
Screen readers built into browsers, or is it like private software that they purchase?
I mean, some of them have the screen readers built in, but you can find them. They're free everywhere. I mean, you can find them. It's not a problem. We suggest doing like NVIDIA or something. We give a couple at the end.
At the end, we have a couple that we recommend, actually.
Yeah, we would recommend, actually, if you've never seen it in action, go to YouTube and just type in somebody using a screen reader, and you'll be amazed. And, it's really something.
On the alt text, how much is too much?
I mean, that's a good point. I mean, you don't want to, I try to keep it to one sentence is what I try to do. One sentence, one good descriptive sentence, and you should be good. Because, yeah, you could sit there all day long, and some sites have a few pictures, some sites have thousands. So that's what I try to do.
But again, remember, the point is, it could vary by the picture too. Some pictures it's very easy to describe, some it's going to take a little bit more. So it's a case-by-case basis.
Yes, in the back.
For sections that would have like a button that says maybe learn more read more,
Mm-hmm.
does that need to change, or is the screen reader gonna sort of provide the context that it's a button at the end of the paragraph?
Well, that's actually, it's the difference. WCAG 2.0 only doesn't specify icons and buttons and things like that. But with the new WCAG 2.1, they've included specifying exactly what you're talking about, because that's an issue. That's one of the gray areas. What do you do with a button? What we try to do is we just try to be as descriptive as we can. And again, in the title or something, what we try to do is when we build a site that has to be, or someone comes to us that they want their site to be more accessible, we'll make a copy of it and make that site accessible. So then at the top of the original site, it'll be like a click this to go to the accessible site. And then that individual can click there and go to a separate page that has all the same info but laid out differently, because you fall into traps like that. There's a gray area. I mean, that's the problem with this. There is a gray area, and they say it's only law for federal agencies, but like on our website, we've got a blog on there that lists a lot of lawsuits that'll happen. God bless you. That lists a lot of lawsuits that happened just in the first 2 months of this year. And it's huge companies, Amazon, Nike, Rolex, huge companies that obviously aren't federal agencies. So that's one of the gray area ones, is one of the buttons. Yes. Yes.
In your industry, is there any thought to the fact that Google may favor websites that are WCAG compliant, or are there different search engines that people use?
In our opinion, as of right now, Google isn't favoring it. I believe it's just a matter of time, because it just makes sense. Same way they started favoring sites that are secure. It'll happen over time. It just makes sense because
That's part of W3C, isn't it? WCAG, isn't it connected
yes,
with W3C?
yeah, oh yeah, absolutely, yeah. That's the one that gives out the WCAG standards, and the DOJ says follow them. There's three levels: A, AA, and AAA, and then they say you got to be A and AA. But
Are there separate search engines for finding websites that are more compliant, or is it
not that I'm aware of. No, yeah,
typically they go to Google?
yes, yep. But yes, I think just a matter of time. I don't believe they are now, but I think it's a matter of time they are, because it just makes sense. So.
Well, I mean, in many of the principles, from the alt tags to descriptive link text, I mean, that's just SEO best practice anyway.
Correct. Correct. You'll get the majority of it if you just stay to the high standards of building your site. You'll just already automatically, just like Google will automatically start loving you, you'll already the majority of the way as far as being compliant. Correct. So, all right. Yes.
Following up on that, actually waiting to see if somebody else asks it. A lot of places might suggest using your alt tags to do things for SEO purposes. For things to try to maybe add more keywords. What would be a good way what would be your response to people suggesting to do that?
Right. Well, we've found no data that indicates that using alt tags helps your SEO. We have seen data that using your description helps your SEO. That's kind of how we believe Google attaches text to that picture, because Google can't read a picture of a dog. It doesn't know that's a dog playing with a ball. But if you put in the description, that tells Google, and then that's where people want to keyword stuff. Definitely don't keyword stuff, but alt tags, we don't believe have anything to do with SEO. It's just really about a description of the picture for screen readers and stuff. So no, you don't keyword stuff. If I didn't answer it, don't keyword stuff your alt tags. Yes.
From a design perspective, sometimes images in a website are purely graphical with a background, or they're there to just enhance like the visual experience of it. What happens if you leave the alt tag or the alt length? Does it just skip over that? Like in what order, how does it determine what order it reads the text? Like, is there any way to narrate it?
Well, generally the screen reader starts from top to bottom. And it'll just say a picture and just keep going and continue reading whatever's next for content that's going on. It just won't read the alt text. That's all, and the end user will just have a lower experience. And it's tough if you're adding. That's why we believe just as you're adding pictures to your site, just to add the alt text right to it, because even a lot of people will put it in their media file and not add the alt text, and then put it on their page, post it to their page, and what happens is you can come back to your media file and add the alt text, but then it doesn't translate to your picture that's already on the front end. So then you got to go basically do it twice. So it's really best to just do it as you're going. So, and it's the alternative texts that are in the section 508 guidelines. I don't know, did that answer your question?
Sort of.
What was the question again?
Some images are just purely graphical, so it's not
Correct.
really necessary for an audio.
I got you. What I'll do in those situations, I'll say exactly that, a logo for a business or a picture of text. I'll just to give it a quick description like that. You never leave it blank. Give it something simple, even if you're not exactly describing that, because like you said, some are very complicated. All these different logos and icons, it's hard to describe those. So I'll just in that scenario just say this is an icon of the business, or this is something simple like that, to get away with that. So at least the individual knows I'm trying.
Okay, we've got some more.
Oh, I think we got one more. Okay. Well, we got another part of this, so we're going to move on to the second section of the list. What we got number 6 is don't use color as the only indication of meaning. This has to do a lot with color blindness. A lot of people, we get color blind later on in life. So we got a correct example, our correct example, and incorrect example. The incorrect example is, again, we got to keep in mind this is for a low vision user and a screen reader is reading this text to somebody. The screen reader will say required fields are in red, name and email. The screen reader will not tell them which one is in red. So what you want to do is this is how you handle it. Required fields are in red and marked with an asterisk. Name, email, asterisk. And that's how the screen reader is going to read it. So that low vision individual now knows email is the required field. You're not just using color. We got another example here. We got an incorrect and a correct. Again, which is the right angle triangle? You don't want the individual to have to look at this and have to try to think what colors are they to correlate with the proper answer. So to combat that, what you do is you'll just add some numbers inside of there and then represent them over here on this side. So the individual is looking at these, he knows which triangle is the right angle and he can correlate that by the number. Especially with men, we go, I think it's blue-green colorblind as we get older. So it's the same thing with like the color contrast we were talking earlier. It just gets harder and harder. All right, this is probably the easiest one. Make sure your font size is at least 18 plus. Now you can get technical, and sometimes you can get away with a 17 or a 16 because if it's bold or some font size, font types are larger than other font types, but in general you want to make sure they're 18 plus. All right, and then we got your error handling. If there's an input error by the user, it must be identified and described in the text. So we got an example of this right here. So if you go into a form and you're filling out the form and there's an error, it just can't highlight the box red, because that would work for an individual like me. I can obviously see that box is red and I messed that up. You have to tell the person in text again for the screen reader. So the screen reader will say, please review the errors below. Title is required, last name is required, zip code is required. You're telling the user exactly how to handle the errors. And again, this is easy to do as you're building your site. A lot of stuff is just standard operating procedures. Your entire website should be able to be navigated using only your keyboard. We call this tab navigation. Just in case, this handles one of the disabilities, someone can't use a mouse or something, you have to be able to navigate the entire site with just using your keyboard. And the majority of the time it's just the tab button. And when you first land on the site, if you hit tab, it'll usually highlight something up here. And then as you keep hitting tab, it'll just keep highlighting and it'll just keep working its way down the site, all the way down to the very bottom. That's very important. All right, you must offer flexible time limits, if any. Now we know some sites you have to have time limits as far as bank accounts. Anybody logs into your bank account or your credit card account, and then you open up a dozen more tabs like I do, and you get lost down Google Lane, Then you realize 20 minutes later, oh, I had my bank account open. You go back to that tab and it's logged you out because you're idle. So that's fine, but if you're going to do that, you want to make sure that you give them the option. Yeah, that's the next one. You just got to let them know. Let them know that you're about to be logged out and ask them if they need more time, and make it real easy for them to click a button and just say, yes, I need more time. We try to say that most sites you don't need to have an auto log out like that. But with important ones where you have pertinent information, again, you really do for security reasons. But try not to have time limits at all if you can help it. And then we got the final one here. You want to provide skip navigation links so that the user can skip repetitive content, like nav menus. We all know on our big, beautiful websites, you got this drop-down menu on the top that goes to all these amazing areas, and that's fantastic for a typical user, but for a person with disabilities, when they're reading a screen reader, that screen reader has to go through all of that content before it gets to the good, meaty stuff that user wants to inhale. As far as knowledge is concerned. So having good skip navs allows the user to very easily skip over repetitive stuff, mainly that real long nav menu at the top. So every time they go to a new page, they can just skip it and get right to basically your body. That's really important. You can do that very easily. Most of them come standard these days, but some sites don't. You can real easily go to the repository, download this plugin, WordPress accessibility plugin, and we have no affiliation with this plugin whatsoever. It's just a good plugin. And the very first thing on it is enable skip links, and you just click it and boom, you're done. So it's very, very simple process. Like I said, most of them come in with it. Now, if you want to do it manually, there's some people that just want to do stuff manually. We added it in here. We're not going to go through it, but you can go back to it and see how we did it. So. And
most newer themes now have skip links automatically. So this is a bit almost antiquated.
Right. Questions on the second half as far as all that's concerned? Yes.
Is there a website or a tool that you can use that scroll all your websites and gives you, the information of what you are missing? Or...
Yeah, right after this, we show you a program. I mean, there's no cure-all, and the real good ones cost a lot of money, but there are a couple of free ones out there we show you, definitely. Any more questions? All right. Well, I mean, that was just our 11 steps. And again, it's if how many people here are developers or own an agency or build websites? Okay. Wow. Okay. We got a lot of people. Again, these are made to we believe you can incorporate these simple steps into your process while you build your site. We can really make a difference. And that's the point of these. You can do your 1 through 11 and follow this list to the T, and there's still a good chance you are not fully compliant. Because, like, again, we'd be here for days talking about the WCAG regulations and guidelines, and even then, nobody really fully understands because there are some gray areas. But this is just made for developers and for agencies like us. When we build our sites, we try to just incorporate this into our process. We think we can make a difference. All right, these are some tools. We believe, this is kind of a little cheat. I'm just going to throw it out there. Between these two plugins, you're doing pretty good. Userway.org, it's a plugin, or you can go download the software and just do it yourself. It's easier as a plugin for WordPress. And what this does is this puts an icon on the front of your website. So anybody that comes to your website, if they need bigger text, better contrast, it gives them multiple options. They can very easily click it, and it'll make your page so much more readable and navigable to them. Wally is more of the back end, kind of answers your question a little bit. What this does is gives you a little icon on the back end for the developer, and this will go through your site and it'll tell you where your errors are for compliance. It doesn't necessarily tell you how to fix them and all that stuff, but it will highlight at each page. You go to that page and it highlights where all your errors are, and if you can go through and make it clean all that up, you're doing really, really well. And that's a free plugin. And a web accessibility tool, that's our tool. This helps you with your alternative text. If you've already built a site, The alternative text, it'll bring all your pictures together, make it real easy for you, helps you with your contrast. And my favorite tool is it also gives you a checklist, interactive checklist on the back end that came straight from W3, the WCAG 2.1 brand new guidelines. And if you can check each one of those on your site, you are fully compliant. So, and we got some technologies here.
These are screen readers. I always like to plug NVDA. It's an open source free screen reader that's actually, the lead developers on it are blind. So who better to know what's needed on a screen reader. So NVDA, look into that if you like. Chrome Vox is a screen reader. It's an extension to Chrome. I think somebody had asked about that earlier. So that's simple. Just add an extension to Chrome. I've used that. It's very, it's a good tool to play around with, just to see how low vision users use your site. Throw it on Chrome and go to whatever website you're looking for and see.
And every computer comes with the ability of accessibility. Like when you're first loading your computer, when you're typing in your username or login info, I mean, you can go and start your accessibility and it'll start reading off everything on your page. So every computer comes with some sort of reader these days. Even your phones, you go in the menu settings and play with the reader and it will read your phone.
And some cost a lot of money too.
Yes.
Like JAWS.
And that's pretty much it.
Yep.
Yes.
So I know WCAG, they have a guideline for different levels
Mm-hmm.
of compliance.
Yes.
So is there a recommendation of what level your site should be at, whether level 1, 2, or 3?
Yes, there are 3 levels, A, AA, AAA. The DOJ specifies that you should be level A and AA compliance. That's what Section 508. Section 508 is A and AA compliance of WCAG 2.1 guidelines. So that's what they say. Now that's pretty hard. It's actually very hard to do. We try to shoot for, a lot of these cover level A and we dabble a little bit into AA, but a lot of level A is just simple stuff. You know, like you mentioned, just good practice, development practices and website building practices will cure a lot of that. So I don't know if that answers your question or not.
Yeah, so you can't really get to level 3 technically.
It's virtually impossible. Yeah, it's virtually impossible. And with some technologies, it's just not possible. But it's very difficult to do level 3. But like again, DOJ specifies you only need to be level A and AA. Okay. They don't specify anything anymore, but that's what it was, A and AA.
Okay.
Any more questions? I think you had one. No? That's it?
That's our
Okay.
presentation. And
Yep, appreciate you guys coming out, really, you know. Thank you. And with that, we'll hand the floor back over.